All right. Hey, this is Tony Sweet live from Contact in the Desert. I have the award-winning author of Modern Esoteric. We have Brad Olsen here, and Brad is one of the speakers here and one of our former guests, and he has been astounding with all the guests here, or patrons, I guess, here at the Contact in the Desert. One of my favorite guests. And Brad, I want to ask you, you're here every year, and you're one of the top speakers, but this year, how are you going to top last year? What are you talking about this year?
Well, I always like to bring in new material that other presenters aren't going as in-depth as I've been. So this year I brought up the forbidden archaeology of giants in our prehistory, which is featured in 2 of my books, Sacred Places North America, actually 3, Sacred Places Europe, and Modern Esoteric, as you mentioned. And this is where I get into human origins, the Rh negative blood factor, how humans seem to be many species in one, and how the planet has been inhabitable for millions of years. And it's quite possible that these giants may have lived here on Earth. So I gave a presentation that went around the world. I showed Egyptian hieroglyphs, headlines in the newspapers in the 19th century where the giants had come out of the mound sites, as well as artifacts and mummified 8-foot, 9-foot, 10-foot tall giants right here in North America. So it's just a story that is definitely underreported and needs to be articulated in another way. And I think my presentation did that today. So I'll change it up from last year.
So I know we've talked about giants on our show many, many times, and we've talked to you about them before. Do you feel that the giants are also based from extraterrestrial, or do you feel that it was just a natural evolution that just became extinct?
Well, of course, you have the biblical references to the men of renown that mated with earth women. I made a point of saying that donkeys and horses can mate and have mules. So it's not a stretch of the imagination to think that perhaps there were ET races that were very large. It was also brought up in the Q&A that the Earth's gravity may have changed. When I was going down the Grand Canyon over a mile deep, there is the original core of the Earth. So there's a mile of sediment above it. So the Earth could be getting heavier as time goes on with all the organic life that lays down new sedimentary levels. So the Earth changes. It's a dynamic being. Gaia is a living organism in and of itself. And we have had many, many species that have come and gone. They say that over 97% of all species that have lived on this planet are now gone. So to think that perhaps a wayward extraterrestrial group came here, lived for generations, maybe mated with Earth women, well, that's
another movie. But I'm curious because now in the last 50 years, actually 40 years, the DNA has really kicked in, and people have been released from prison because it was proven that they were not a murderer or a suspect of a murder. So since the DNA has really kicked in, how has that helped prove that there were giants? Is there anything in particular that they found in tall people or different DNA strands that we found that could link us back to giants?
Yeah, and that is really the smoking gun in all this, because there is DNA science that is now applied to the remains of some of these giants. Claus Donna did a DNA test on Ecuadorian giant, and as I said in my presentation, we find the remains all over the world, including Antarctica. Maria is the Gaia TV. Nazca Indian, not necessarily a giant, maybe more of a dwarf person. I did bring up the dwarves, the small people, which are just as intriguing. But somehow Science, Nature magazine will recognize the dwarves as being a separate subspecies of hominids, not related to Homo sapien, but it's too much of a stretch to include the giants. But with DNA testing, as well as the Paracas elongated skulls, bigger heads, bigger bodies. And those are also coming in conclusively not a human genome, that they were indeed mixed, much like the Star Child skull that Lloyd Pye was taking around before he passed away. Earth Mother alien father in both the Paracas results and the Star Child results. So the men of renown had a thing for Earth women. Who doesn't?
Well, one more question, and then I'll let you get back because I know tons of people at your booth waiting to speak with you. But why do you feel, because I've read where the Smithsonian, where many giants have been found, but they was removed and stored at the Smithsonian. Why do you feel that in 2018 they're still denying the fact that there was any discoveries or the acknowledgement that they even existed? Why do you feel that is in 2018?
That's a great question, Tony, and it really comes down to the fact that this is a game changer. It's almost like, why aren't ETs recognized as coming to Earth or possibly even being here? It's such a game changer in both what it would do to religions, what it would do to our history, what it would do to anthropology, archaeology. Everything changes once you start making these recognitions. So I think there's a conservative hesitation on the part of the mainstream archaeologists, who are also dependent on financing through their university, through other forms. That might dry up if they were the renegade archaeologists who bring this out. But some of them do, and some of them have released images like the dig of giants in Kigali, Rwanda, a few years back, that did get picked up by some other news sources outside of North America. Russia seems to be open to this idea, and it could just very well be that this is like the slow drip, drip, drip percolation of information, that disclosure comes from the ground up. It's just like talking about the UFO and ET phenomenon. Sooner or later, there will be such a preponderance of evidence that everyday people do start to agree that this is the reality that we're living in today. But there's still a lot of blowback. There's still a lot of pressure to keep things status quo. But that's changing quickly, and if I play a small role in changing those perceptions, I'm happy to play my part.
Well, I have to say, we at Truth Be Told really thank you for doing what you do, because it gives us something to talk about, but it also keeps the truth, as Truth Be Told, trying to get the truth out to the people. And this is Brad Olsen. He's an award-winning author. How do people go to your website? Where do they go?
If you want to find out more about me, bradolsen.com. I have a publishing company called CCC Publishing. That's our website. And I have a YouTube channel called Esoteric Series and a radio show called The Esoteric Circle. And you can find me, BRADOLSEN, pretty easy to find.
Perfect. Well, this is Tony Sweet and Captain Ron from Contact in the Desert. Go to Truth Be Told worldwide now, worldwide.com. We appreciate you. We'll see you next time.